Hello, my name is Porter Anderson. I am the editor-in-chief of Publishing Perspectives magazine. We are the news medium of Frankfurt Book Fair, and we're very glad to have you join us. We are coming to you thanks to the Sheikh Zayed Book Award, and we are in Sheikh Zayed season, as a matter of fact, as the winners are announced around this time every year during the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair, which this year runs the 23rd to the 29th of May. We will be celebrating the winners. And we're excited because there's a connection here. You're going to meet him in just a moment. Joining me for our conversation today are two great people. We're very glad to have them with us. Renad Qubbaj is the Director General of the Tamer Institute for Community Education in Palestine. And Ahmed Rashad is the CEO of Dar al-Masriah al-Lubnaniah in Egypt. And Ahmed is our connection to one of the winners of this year's Sheikh Zayed Book Awards. The Publishing and Technology Award has gone to an extraordinary project in Egypt. It's called the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, not quite Alexandria as we know the ancient library, but it is a tribute. It's an homage and a living, very highly teched up, beautiful library on the sea, on the Mediterranean Sea. And Ahmed is familiar with it, aren't you, Ahmed? You know this project very well.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Alexandria Library deserve, I think, not because I'm Egyptian, but I'll tell you that the library deserve this prize. They make huge projects in the last maybe 20, 21 years. Many projects, very selective board members to think about what would be new for this library. So I think they deserve this prize.
It's so beautiful too. I know the Great Hall, where most of the work happens on 11 different levels, is 20,000 square feet. It's just gigantic. And designed, I understand, by a Norwegian architecture firm, which is fascinating. Am I right? I believe that it at least originally was set to have Arabic, English, and French as its languages. But as you and I have been talking, you were saying perhaps Greek may be involved too, yeah?
Yes, but the main languages are English, Arabic, of course, Arabic and English and French, but maybe there are other languages also. Maybe even on the walls, you will find different languages, different Greek languages. The design itself, it was from the old design from ancient Greek. It was made, but with a modern style. It's a very nice library when you enter. It's one of the best libraries, I think, all over the world.
I'm sure of it. It's a wonderful win. It's great to see this happen. The recognition from the Sheikh Zayed Book Award is fantastic. And I can't wait to see the Bibliotheca Alexandrina the first time. It will be my first visit, so I'm very excited. So thank you for telling us about that. Renad, may I start with you? Our topic today is the publisher's viewpoint on what impact awards have. Certainly the Sheikh Zayed Book Award is one of the wealthiest in the world. It has 9 categories. It's a very extensive award, and the entire year is used in the submission and selection project. It's quite rigorous. And this is why, of course, so many of its laureates are so successful and so well known. Renad, in your experience, first tell us, if you will, a bit about the Tamer Institute. And then tell us your experience with the award in terms of what kind of impact it can have on the recognition of your work.
Thank you so much for providing this opportunity to speak up about Tamer Institute and about the publishing sector in the Arab world, and about the trends in terms of reading and so on within the children and the young adults community, as we are specialized in this area. Tamer Institute for Community Education is based in Palestine, and it was established in 1989 during the first Intifada, where there were a massive closure of schools and university by the Israeli occupation. So the formal education system was completely disrupted by these closures. So the founders of the organization were part of the community popular education movement in Palestine. And at that moment, they thought of the importance of having an organization that would go on with knowledge transformation through the informal education. So this is the establishment of Tamer Institute in 1989. And the main program of Tamer Institute is to promote reading, writing, expressive art within the children's and young adults communities through, of course, interactive means of learning, which is it can be whether it is a storytelling or illustration or puppet making. And of course, as we go on, the new techniques and the new tools have been improved and are connected now to social medias and to new tools like, the filmmaking, the podcasting, and so on. It's been like, 30 years of experience working with children and young adults to promote their means of expression, and of course to build up their self-esteem and their voices to the community and to the world as well. This is in a
And
brief.
this is fantastic work you're doing, and it's wonderful in a way because this would have come in at the first Intifada, I believe, and
Right.
yet here is this marvelous legacy now being built of education and youth development in the community, family development, that's still going. It's great when something comes out of such an experience. What is your experience with the Sheikh Zayed Book Award in particular, and with your understanding of the impact of awards in general? Are they helpful?
Hmm. Definitely, the children's sector have been and the children's publication have been improved a lot in the last 30 years. So, if we are looking at the history of children's literature, and definitely it started from Egypt, Lebanon, and so on 100 years ago. But maybe the Arab world always looked at children's literature not from an empowering point of view. It's more of children. So when things comes to the children, we do not give it this powerful meaning, even for the writers. So one story that I know of about Ahmed Shawqi, like when he was writing for the children in the beginning, he did not write his name because it is directed for the children, So this kind of, in a way, does not provide this legacy or this, a privilege of writing. But later on, of course, he was very well known for children writing. What I'm talking about, the start in the beginning. And this is the same case for many writers, even until now. So, like when you ask the writer, do you write for the children? So they look, some of them, they would look at you from, children, no, an adult's writings. Although the challenges for writing for children is much bigger than writing for adults, because like when you are and this is maybe we'll speak up about it later, definitely there are criterias that we need to take into consideration when we are writing for the children, like the child perspective. It's very important always to have the child perspective in our mind and our heart when we are writing for children. So the last 30 years definitely it improved a lot, and the whole movement of publishing for children went from one level to a better level. Now, the awards in the Arab world or worldwide as well, definitely it is a way of celebrating a book, and also celebrating individuals and celebrating publishers. So awards can be part of the celebration of the books as yani, one aspect, and definitely through the awards in the Arab world as well, maybe worldwide. It builds up kind of the social network for the publishers, for the writers, for the illustrators. And from our experience as Tamer Institute, definitely many writers, many illustrators have been introduced to us as well through these awards. Like, as a Tamer Institute, we always wait for Alma's awards results in Sweden to see who's the winner. Then this winner is gonna be, a potential person that we will try to reach for translation and so on. So this is also definitely another aspect, and also awards definitely kind of a voice and also kind of a way of reaching out for different countries. Like, with the award that we got in 2019, the book that we got it, definitely it was translated to different languages, like at least 6 languages around the world, like, English, French, German, Greek, Portuguese. So it is one way of introducing this book to the whole world. But if we are talking about selling in the Arab world, this is another level of our discussion. Maybe I will stop here and then I will continue later. So in order to have the space for my colleague to speak up. I don't know.
Sure. No, that's very gracious of you. And I will want to return to you and ask about the sales aspects, because this is something very interesting to us too. I love, well, I don't love it, but I think it's fascinating to know that originally the writers were not wanting to be known, that writing for children was something you didn't talk about too much, because now, it seems to have changed completely. And for two people, often there's the author and there's the illustrator, who can also become very celebrated in her own right or his own right, which is great. I think that, I hope this means that the entire international industry has evolved a little bit to understand, as you say, how difficult writing for children is and how tricky the criteria are. And the same for the artwork. I try to make sure that publishers remember to credit both the illustrator and the author, because certainly, I mean, speaking of sales, which we'll come back to, but when the parents are walking through the bookstore, it's the illustrator's work that catches their eye. Then the story is probably wonderful as well, but it's those illustrations that probably do more of the sales work than the text until they read it and love it. So these are very good points that you're making, and congratulations, by the way, too, from 2019. It's great to hear so many translations have come to the book. That's awesome. Now, Ahmed, if we may turn to you, and then we'll be back to talk some more with Renad. You have a string of Sheikh Zayed Book Awards, don't you? You've been very successful with the program.
Okay, let me first introduce myself. I'm the CEO of Masriah, as you had mentioned. I'm the second generation in Masriah, Lubnaniah. Our publishing house was established from 1985. The founder was Mr. Muhammad Rashad, my father. We are a general publisher. We publish in all sectors. And maybe that's one of the main reasons why we won the prize in different categories in the last 16 or 15 years. We published till now like around 2,100 titles in various fields. Maybe in the last 12 or 13 years, we focused more on fiction and literature because that's the trend. And maybe we can get back to this question about the trends and how things change in publishing industry, whether in the Arabic world or in Egypt specifically. Of course, whenever we win a prize, we won the first was 2007 in children's literature, in 2009 as the best publisher and distributor in the Arab world, in 2014 in literature, 2016 literature, and 2017 young adult author. Each prize of them have a certain a certain thing, or makes us feel of a different feel of success. For example, in 2007, in children's literature, it was the first, the beginning of the award. Always the awards, it was when it was announced, the award in 2006, it was one of the, and still it's one of the wealthiest prizes in the region, and maybe in the world. 200,000 US dollars, it's a big amount of money. The PR even of the prize was very huge when it was launched. Even naming the prize with Sheikh Zayed, that means a lot for Abu Dhabi, and means a lot for publishing industry, and means a lot for culture as a whole. So when we won the first prize, it had a great meaning for us. At the same time, when we won it, the series which won, it was for young adults, and there is a big lake of series for young adults in the region. And maybe Renad can say this: we have a big lake of books for young adults. So it was a success for us. 2009, when we won the prize as the best publisher, we were the first private publisher to win this prize. Of course, when you see something like this, especially for my father and the founder of the publishing house, to win the prize for the first time, to be the private publisher to win this prize, of course, it means a lot, and means that you did a great achievement. 2014 had a different feel of success, because the writer wasn't known, and we didn't hear about the writer, or we didn't hear about his works before, but just the editorial team had saw the novel, and they were happy from it. They made a great job. So to win the prize without any notice about the writer himself means a lot. 2016 was for one of the greatest writers for literature and fiction in the Arab world, Ibrahim Abdelmajid, and it was part of his biography and part of his success. So that's another meaning. And Ibrahim Abdelmajid is one of the writers who deserve to win this prize, and we were happy for him for that. 2017 for Summer Rains, this is a new writer, and he was the first writer, Egyptian writer, to win the Youth Prize. So also this means that we are going on the right track, and that we are introducing new writers for the Arab world. So that had also a great meaning.
This is great. I mean, congratulations. It's quite astonishing. I have had a chance to talk with your father, by the way, Mohammed. He's terrific. And I know he's great with the leadership of the Arab Publishers Association.
Yes,
which is terrific.
He's the president of the Arab Publishers Association,
right.
And he was one of the founders of the Egyptian Publishers Association and the Arab Publishers Association also.
Right, and I believe you're on the executive of the Egyptian Publishers Association, yes?
Yes, I used to be till from 2 months. Yes, I used to be a board member, but I'm for the time being, I'm the vice president of the Arab Children's Publisher Forum, which is in Sharjah. So I'm the vice president of the Arab Children's Publishers Forum.
That one's going to keep you quite busy, I'm sure. So it sounds to me like you have a lot going on. But this is great that you have this depth of experience. And I like the things that you're talking about in terms of how the awards attention, in fact, not only raises the visibility, of course, and the profile of the work and of the authors as it should, and of the publisher as it should, I should say, but it also sends messages to you. As you were saying with the youth author, it means that signal to you says we're doing the right thing. We're finding the young writers who need the attention and bringing them to the public. Because that's one thing we want to talk about in our conversation is basically what is the new work? What are people looking at these days that's contemporary and fresh? And a lot of that's coming from younger writers, yeah?
Yeah, I need to tell you also that we formed a series of bookstores from 2 years. So I'm also a retailer now. So I can tell you even better because I'm not only a publisher, I'm a retailer also.
That's incredible. So now you're getting everything but sleep. I understand this problem myself. Congratulations, though. At least you're not getting off into the things you shouldn't. So you're staying busy, and it's great. This is good to hear. Renad, let's return to you for a moment, because I know that we were talking about and what Ahmed is touching on is making me realize we need to get back to this topic too. In general, beyond the Sheikh Zayed Book Award, which is so fantastic, how much do you think awards themselves, in the general way, are having an effect on bringing Arabic to the rest of the world? There are several other pretty strong awards, nothing as major as the Sheikh Zayed, but there are some very strong awards and then very well-known awards operating in the region now. Is this helping in general? Does this kind of attention tend to lift Arabic literature to people's attention in other parts of the world?
Yes, indeed. As we were saying, awards in a way have increased the number of publishing in the Arab world even. Because as we are saying, awards is kind of a solid money to support publishers, writers, illustrators, and so on. And this is, of course, will give the room for everyone to be more creative in a way, and maybe to be more experimental. But the thing that I would like to mention as well, and it is connected maybe to the situation in the Arab world, that the economic situation is not that good. So sometimes, and okay, now this book is a winning book, but that does not mean that it's always in terms of selling is good. But definitely it is more of attention to the book in the publishing maybe community, more of attention from the researchers on this book and how this book is helping in reading promotion and so on. But from our experience, does not mean that it sells always in a very good way. So it's not kind of a golden sticker for selling as well. But definitely, maybe in terms of translation, I would say from our experience, it is kind of an opportunity to be exposed worldwide. Now, when it comes to children's book, as you were saying, like, when a child would go to a bookshop, maybe the illustration would be the first to be attractive for the child. So it's different, like when we are talking about a young adult's novel or an adult book. So for picture books, I would look at the award from different perspective in terms of evaluation, in terms of selection, and so on. For us as a Tamer Institute, we are promoting the child perspectives in every way and in every mean, and we do feel the children should be even part of this selection process within this award. So there should be a mechanism where our children also participate in this selection. The golden stickers that we have on the winning box sometimes would attract the fathers, the mothers, the families, the adults, the teachers, but not necessarily the children's. So that's why it's important to have the child perspective in this selection. So I think this is will promote the award more and more in terms of testing and in terms of having the child perspective in this way. And with the picture books, I do feel it should be an award not only for the writer, but also to the illustrators and to the editors and to the publisher, because they are all together putting this book, and bringing it to life, and bringing it to the society, to community, to children, to the readers. يعني this is maybe هيك something that يعني something to look at it or to think about it when it comes to awards in relation to books for children and young adults. So it's very good to have also the readers of this category part of the selection process. As I was saying, maybe it's not a definite, but definitely also from our experience, definitely we have awards from different parts of, places, whether it is Itisalat or Al-Multaqa for the children's publishing, or Sheikh Zayed. Definitely it varies. It depends on the book. Although it is a winning book, but does not mean it's gonna be also a good selling book.
We see this all over the world, actually. We talk about a book that is a critical success, but not a market success, because the public never seem to catch on. Some of the most bittersweet stories you see are books that are highly praised by critics and by awards programs when they come out, and years later they find an audience, and suddenly there's sales everywhere, and that can be very exciting when it happens too. But yes, we see this tendency too. I think partly it's also a matter of an award, which now is happening with the Sheikh Zayed, because this is its 16th season. And now it is starting to get enough traction and visibility itself in the world that I believe it's going to be even more supportive and powerful of its winners going forward. But it takes a while. It takes years just for an award to become known enough for people to respond to it and to pay attention to what is being selected. I love, going back to one thing you said, I love the idea of involving the children in the process. There's a great understanding now in our educational system here in the States that it's very important to let kids choose their own books. And in that way, you get much better reading because they know what they want and they'll find what they're looking for. And they're more committed to it when they've picked a book rather than the teacher saying, here, you have to read this. And in France, there's of course a very famous example in the Prix Goncourt Lycée, where the students in the high school sector are actually choosing the author they like and the book they like. And this is considered a very valuable award by the authors too, because it means, going back to what Ahmed was saying, it means that the younger readers are following an author and paying attention. And that can be great news for anybody's career. So I love hearing you talk about that. I think it's great that you're using this process of such complete involvement with the younger readers. That's super. Ahmed, tell me a little about your experience in terms of sales versus, as we say, critical acclaim. Have you had good sales from awards?
Yes, but I'll tell you, I love the expression of Renad about the golden sticker.
Yes,
Look, yeah, it's a very lovely expression. I'll tell you how do I see Sheikh Zayed Award. I think Sheikh Zayed Award had passed on different levels. The first level was starting from 2007, 2006 till 2014, 15. Publishers were focused more on two things. First, the PR. Second, the amount of the awards. That was the main two focuses, I think, was at the beginning of the prize. And maybe Sheikh Zayed Award made a lovely PR for this prize. The second change was starting from 2015, 2016, the award to be more well known to foreign publishers and how publishers might be attracted to our fiction. I think this makes sense about the changes in the market even after the 2011, because there was a big transition in the Arabic market after 2011 and the Arab Spring. Contemporary fiction had taken place a lot. The social media changes in reading habits. I think that was one of the reasons that attracted foreign publishers to Arabic literature or Arabic fiction. Maybe Sheikh Zayed Award after 2016, 2017, when they felt the fund they gave for translation, I think helped a lot. They gave a big fund around $20,000. And by the way, it helped because I'm one of the publishers who won the prizes, and I sold till now more than 3 contracts for the winning books. So I think we as a publisher think that the golden sticker for us now is translation. And I think this is the big success. And maybe for the writers, the money and the PR, because of course, there isn't any book, even if it sold thousands of copies, can give you royalties with this amount of price. So I think always writers are willing to win this prize either for PR or for wealthiness. For publishers, I think the main thing for them is for translation and of course PR. That's my point of view about the prize.
This is such good news for the rest of us and the rest of the world, because what you're saying is that this new value, the later value that's developed, is not only good for you, of course, because of the translation, but it's good for us because it means we can start reading the material. You know, for
yes.
if you had said to me, it means wonderful sales, but only here in the Arab region, that would leave us out. And I think that those of us who understand how important Arabic is and how rich that culture is, we want to read more of what you've got. So this is great news because that $20,000 is a big help in getting it translated for us. Yes?
Yes, but and also I'll add to what you were talking with Renad about was that not all the prizes make good sales in the Arabic markets. Even I'll tell you something. Even always the boost is for Booker Prize, for example, for fiction. That whenever a book wins the Booker, it sells a lot. That's not now what's happening. Sometimes some books win even the Booker and they don't sell. So the taste of the readers who read bestsellers is different somehow from the strategy of prizes. That's an important thing we have to think about. Maybe Sheikh Zayed Award always tries to make this compromising, to make a book which could be suitable for foreign readers or suitable for Arabic readers, or it's an excellent in writing and it's written in a good way, which could deserve that it can win a prize. So I think this doesn't happen in all prizes. Maybe Sheikh Zayed tries to do this, tries to make this compromising.
I'm sure that's a consideration. The scientific committee and the board work very hard on these selections. And I know that they're very aware of the fact that not only do we want to find the very best literature, but we're doing it so that it gets higher visibility. And that means that at times there must be some consideration as to how the public will see this and understand it and want to read it. It gets us to the point that I was mentioning, and I think we'll go back to Renad for a minute on this. About what is selling, because we have a concept now in the United States that there is a great valuable sector of literature, sometimes called commercial fiction, which is not necessarily the best term, I'm afraid, but it means very high quality material that in some settings would be thought of as literary fiction, but in others, because it sells, because it has a place in the public's heart, simply seems to be more viable in the marketplace. And I think what you're talking about, that compromise is very tricky at times to get something that's truly of high value, but that also has that access to the minds and the hearts of the public. It's a fine line. Renad, talk to us a little bit about what you see selling these days. What is popular, as you understand it, in your part of the region? What do you think is going out there in the stores?
Hmm. So as a Tamer Institute, we do not consider ourselves as a publishing, and we are for profit.
Right.
We are more for promoting reading and writing for children and young adults. So whatever we publish, it goes to the community through our network of libraries, of community libraries and school libraries.
Mhm.
So I think in the Arab world, we need to enhance the culture of reading. So, and I think the awards really should also pay attention, so much attention to improve and enrich this culture of reading in the Arab world. Yeah, as I was saying, if we are looking at Palestine definitely under occupations. Palestine is suffering from economic situation and lots of, limitation to basic resources, to water, electricity, and so on. So the books will not come first in my country, not because we do not appreciate or we do not look at reading and education as a mean of liberation. Definitely, we are looking at reading as a mean of liberation for us in Palestine. But our economic situation does not help. So we as an organization have this mandate to distribute our books to community libraries. So we have kind of equal opportunities for children to reach out and then borrow these books and so on. So maybe like when I'm talking about the trends, I can connect it to the our
Sure.
network of libraries in terms of borrowing more than in terms of selling. So this is yani, an aspect that I would like to highlight. You know, it's very important for us in the Arab world to promote the culture of reading, and this is of course needs policies and strategies from Ministry of Education, Ministry of Culture, all over the Arab countries. There should be kind of budget that goes to book purchase within the schools. And unfortunately, if you look at the budgets of the Ministry of Education within different Arab countries, you will not find it because, again, of the economic situation that we live. But also maybe some of the command countries do not look at reading as a self-building and as a self-liberation and so on. So it's very important also to promote the value of reading, to promote the critiques around the books. And I think if we enrich this culture of critiques, definitely this will have kind of more prospects for reading culture and so on. So in terms of what I see from community libraries, children would love picture books that do not tell them what to do and what and not to do. And definitely children are looking for books that enrich their imagination, that can identify themselves with what is happening around the world. Definitely young people or young adults, when they find a novel and this novel talks about them through the characters in the novel, definitely it is kind of something that connect to them. And if it is taking the perspective that we started with, the child perspective or the young children's perspective, it's going to be a good book. If this book builds up based on their needs, but not on what we want to tell them or teach them, it will not be a good book. So children have definitely their own taste, and they know themselves, and they know what they like and what they do not like. So sometimes, also the market and the book purchase more of a control by the mother, by the family, more than the children themselves. So this is something also that we need to look at it. If we want to promote this culture of reading, we need to have the children and the young people our partner, or they need to pick the book that they intend to buy or read, and so on. In terms of a trends, definitely now the comics box is a trend, for the young people. Although it was very famous in 70s and 80s in Arab world, and then it completely disappeared. Now it's becoming back. So it is kind of a trend for young people and for children, the way that I see it. Novels, definitely novels also is something that interests the young adults, as well as we said about picture books that carry imagination, that respect the child and respect their critical thinking, books that bring existential questions and discussing these existential questions without one answering and only one answer. In books that, in a way, open the world for those children, and not just giving them one direction or one answer. This is my reflection, like a quick reflection.
This is very interesting, and I'm intrigued by how much it parallels some of the other markets in the world that we're talking to. I think everybody is having the experience you are of the children who don't want to be told everything. I think parents, and it's very understandable, but I think parents sometimes rely on books to teach children what to do and what to think, and that pedagogical, that teaching instinct gets in the way sometimes, because the child wants to create a world, as we say, wants to actually imagine what's out there. The comics connection is very interesting. Italy is talking a lot about comics now. France has always been a great center of comics. Now Italy is seeing comics, particularly through manga. They're very interested in that. The kids go into the bookstores and ask for it. Suddenly the booksellers are stocking up like crazy because the kids are very into that and regular comics. And what they're loving is that sometimes the younger adults who are into graphic novels will go into a bookstore, get something like that they want, and then come out in the example that's been given to me with a copy of James Joyce's Ulysses as well. They're looking at very difficult books, but they're there because they were right beside each other. They saw a comic, they saw a graphic novel, they saw something attractive, and they saw James Joyce here, and maybe they're interested in that. So it's fascinating how in some cases you can lead people from one kind of literature to another. And I think sometimes that younger people are more open to this than we adults, who get kind of stuck in our way and say, I don't want to read James Joyce. I'm here for the comic book. This is very interesting that you're seeing these trends. And I like your perspective, not in sales, as you say, because you're nonprofit, but in terms of what's being taken in libraries, because this is just as valid. This is telling us what the population is interested in. Just without the sales mechanism, instead with library lending. It's a perfectly valid way to understand the mind of a community. As you say, a community under great pressure, as the Palestinian community is. So thank you for that. Ahmed, we come back to you.
Can I interrupt? Sorry. There's a saying for Astrid Lindgren, the Swedish writer. It's connected. There are lots of saying for her, but there's this one that is connected to a good book. What is a good book? It's the book that puts the word in the heart of the child, and put the child in the heart of the word. So this is, I always see it, that is a very good definition for a good book. So this is what we need for our children and young adults, to put the word inside their heart and to put them inside the word, at the heart of the word.
That's very wise. It's a very compassionate way to understand the value of reading, and to to build on, again, to use an Italian phrase, the reading habit. What Italy is trying to work with its government, as you're saying, its ministries, is to understand how important it is to create the reading habit for that population. This is, and they're not alone. Many, we would like a much better reading habit in the United States, I can tell you that. So you're not alone in that regard. So thank you again for that. Ahmed, as we come back to you then, we're talking to the for-profit sector with your publishing experience and the great successes that you're having. Tell us about sales and tell us about what you see in the market as being popular these days.
Look, I'll tell you. Maybe I have a different perspective because as I told you, I'm a general publisher.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are some common problems in the publishing industry in the Arab world.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the publishing industry in the Arab world have a big lack of support from Arabic governments. Low budgets, low support in taxes, low support in purchase from publishers, even from libraries. Always they deal with a book as it's something for pleasure, not something very important for community. And maybe this, I'll tell you a small story. I've been working in Masriah, Lubnaniah publishing house from 2007. So like 14 or 15 years. I can remember at that time when I took the decision to work in this publishing house with my father and to run the companies, him that I'm not interested in working with governments, working with institutes, because I don't think that they will continue to support. Maybe you see that they support, but at the same time they don't support enough the market. That's why I'll take a new trend to work on trade publishing, to work with readers directly, to work with distribution to readers, not working with institution. And to tell you something, we are running a company, one of the biggest company having employees in the Arab world. We are having more than 100 employer in our publishing house to be in the market and to be working after 2011 with this huge number of employees and not to fire anyone. The reason was working in trade publishing, working on social media, working on selling online. That's the main support for our publishing house. And still, we are facing problems. For example, trade publishing takes place around 70% of our publications now. But at the same time, we're facing problems like piracy, for example. In Egypt, piracy in Iraq, piracy in Lebanon, in different countries. Of course, this is one of the main struggles we're always facing. And that's even sometimes I write or make some interviews on TV or newspaper and tell, I don't want from the government's money. I don't want money. I want them even to support us with new laws, support us with decreasing taxes, support us with different means of support, not just to give money for libraries or schools and purchase books. That's not our problem. We need another mean of support now for the publishing industry, because publishing industry in the last maybe 10 years are, I think everything is changing. Many publishing houses have been closed even in the last 3 from this weak support. So so that's one thing. Another thing, if you are telling me what works in the publishing industry, I'll tell you there are different things. Even sometimes when some reports comes and say that people in the Arabic world, the percentage, maybe Arabic reader reads two. I read like a report from 2 or 3 years saying that Arabic readers read like 2 hours per year. This is not true. There are a lot of readers, but we can't till now see or make some reports saying the actual number of readers and the actual number of hours read by the Arabic reader, but still there are readers. They are focused more on reading fiction, focused on reading self-development, focused on reading philosophy, history. These are the main 4 or 5 trends for me. For children books, for example, till now, the focus is more from institutions and governments than parents to buy books. And when I'm comparing, for example, I'll tell you, I have some, for example, some novels selling more than 50,000 copies per year, and other, for example, some successful books, for example, in children or in whatever category is, don't sell even 200 copies per year. So there is a big difference in sales between fiction and self-development, especially, and other categories in sales of publishing. Translation, some translation, some commercial titles now sells a lot translated in the Arabic market. For example, many books had been translated from the US market, for example, in the Arabic world in the last 2 years. They were very commercial and they sold a lot, especially in self-help and self-development. So market that's the main that are working, but still there are categories that appears from a time to another. For example, in the last 5 years, classics started to work better than before. Philosophy is selling, as I had mentioned, it's selling good. So there are some categories comes ups and downs, but the stable thing is always the fiction and self-development and some translation from other markets.
So interesting. You know who else is selling a lot of self-help is China. They're fascinated by it. They have a massive market and a great hunger for self-help, self-development, self-improvement. They love this. So I've seen this in other parts of the world. And it's very interesting when you talk about piracy and about the trade as opposed to the institutional connections, because in the African markets, there's a change going, like you're talking about. The change there that's underway is reflecting yours about piracy. They need law enforcement. They actually have some very good laws in countries like Kenya, but they find that the authorities won't enforce them. They won't come after the pirates, and they won't actually look for the people who are behind the problem and try to take care of it. So
yes,
they're trying to.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No.
There is a law, for example, in Egypt. There is a law,
Yep.
But it's from 2002, from more than 20 years, right. And even it's a weak law, so it to be changed. And even tell you something, when I was in the Egyptian Publishers Association, for example, and even my father as the president of the Arab Publishers Association, we made these amendments for several times in the last 6 or 7 years, and now there is no change. Maybe we submit the law for the parliament every year, and then they postpone it. That's the main problem we are facing in the Arab world, is that we see that reading is, it's not something in priority. If governments thought about this, that it's a priority, I think things would be changed, and even publishing industry will improve more.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's a common problem. All I can say is you're not alone. Even in copyright issues, we find that a great many governments are unwilling to pay attention to this and to get to it. They, as you say, they don't think it's important. They see it as something that's entertainment, that's maybe just done by a few people. I think you're talking about needing more data, as you're saying, on how many readers are actually there and reading and sensitive to this. That would impress a government. And so perhaps more of that can be developed so that the population is studied more. But the other thing I was going to tell you about in Africa that's so parallel to yours is that for a long time, the markets there have been given primarily to textbooks. educational work, very good work, as a matter of fact. But now some of the women-led publishing houses, this is an idea women are having there. It's great. Bibi Bakare Youssef is one of the best that we talked to. They're leading the entire industry toward the trade because they want to get away from the government funding of the textbooks, the government control of the textbooks. You know, every when you're working with the government, you're working for the government.
I'll tell you.
Yeah?
I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. When I thought about this from 15 years, my
Yeah.
father was telling me, "You're kidding. You're searching about for peanuts." And at the same time, we're working with the governments and Ministry of Education and working with in different sectors, and you're kidding. You're having fun. Now, as I told you, if I was working on this strategy, definitely I collapsed. Definitely I was collapsed from 2 or 3 years minimum. So things are changing.
Yeah. And Dad is impressed. I'm sure. I'm sure he's very proud of this. You know, it's fascinating to see that evolution. I know I mustn't keep you guys too much longer.
Now he's asking for more. Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
you
he's
see?
asking for more trade.
You see, exactly. Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful how you're doing this. And lastly, because I kept you guys too long, I'm afraid, I just want to see if I can touch quickly with each of you on where things are in terms of the pandemic effect right now. We talked a good bit. In fact, you and I talked extensively last year, Ahmed, about this at the time of the Abu Dhabi Book Fair. Now I'd like to check back in with both of you and see, do you see some kind of turnaround as yet? Do you see some movement beyond the pandemic effects on publishing? And what is the situation where you are? Renad, could we start with you again? In Palestine, has the pandemic had an effect on your operation, certainly in education and books? And is there a change as yet? Are things getting better?
Hmm. يعني as you were saying, the effect I think everywhere, from the pandemic on book sellings and so on, and in the market as well. Like, you know, if we are, and if I'm looking at our experience as a Tamer Institute, definitely like in terms of book sales, it went so down, like, you know, it went like minus 70% of what we had before 2020. So in terms of the numbers, definitely they go down tremendously. That's one level. And of course, during the last 2 years, the book fairs were not there anymore. Even at the local level, definitely they were all cancelled. And this is also definitely something that affected our life in the sense of you know, distribution in terms of exposure and participating in different book fairs and so on. But on the other hand, during the pandemic, you know, definitely we start to pay more attention to technology, as a book can be distributed through social media. So many of our books have been transformed to animated stories. So families can see it through the different social medias. And in terms of our Facebook, before the pandemic, like we used to have 36 followers, but after the pandemic, right now we have 122 followers. And we do think because of this continuous production of books for our audience, and our audience was not limited to a Palestinian audience. It became now an audience everywhere around the world for people who speaks the Arabic language, because mainly we are publishing in Arabic. So if you look at the data from Google and so on, so we can see this kind of wide, in a way, presentation and audience from different parts of the world. So maybe, as we were saying, in terms of sales, it went down, but in terms of audience and reaching out worldwide, and definitely it became wider and bigger. And right now, within the last 2 years, we have our books that you can purchase through our website directly. So definitely it was a challenge, and we tried to transform these challenges to a good opportunity in terms of distribution, in terms of reaching out to different audience in the different countries around the world. So there's definitely this opportunity that came with the pandemic.
This is so good to hear. And it's smart of you, of course, to take advantage of social media. And it's also good at a moment when there are a lot of problems with social media. You know, and particularly we find a lot of disinformation. We find people behaving badly in many ways. And it's good to remember at times that social media really do give us some wonderful access to the rest of the world too. We can reach out, we can get a bigger audience, go right across the borders, talk to each other, and read each other's work and see each other's animations, which is kind of great too. That's very smart to go that way. So thank you for that. And Ahmed, I think we're coming to you probably for the last comment here. Tell me where you see things right now from where you sit in your company about the pandemic, its effect, and how things look now. Better?
Yes, of course, the pandemic had affected the Arabic region and the whole world a lot.
As we talked
But
about
for
last
the
year. Yeah.
Arabic, yes, yeah, but for the Arabic industry, for example, one of the main problems from the COVID was, for example, canceling the book fairs, and book fairs are one of the main ways to sell our books. You know that the book fairs in the Arabic world is different than foreign world in means of selling. We sell books and you sell rights in your book fair. So closing these book fairs or canceling these book fairs had affected the market a lot. At the same time, I think there was three types of publishers. Some publishers wasn't on the right track for social media and selling through websites and these things. I think many of them were struggling a lot. Some of them closed already. But for the publisher who were working on social media and selling online, I think they had. I'm not telling you that they had many profits, but at the same time, they had somehow they can work, or things might go in good way better than others. For example, for us in 2013, we started working on social media and even outsourcing marketing agency for our pages. That was a way. Starting from 2020, even before the COVID, we were working on media buying, and that was the way of selling our books. First, we were just promoting our book and our events, everything on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Twitter. But afterwards, no, we were working for the time being. For example, I'm focusing more on media buying. That's why, for example, in the time being, I formed a new website for us for selling even publication, other publication, and even some English books. So, and connecting this with our social media and media buying. So I think things are getting much more better, because, for example, in Egypt, we have a lake of bookstores. There's a few number of bookstores, even in the Arab world. So selling online is a way. Another thing, selling ebooks through different platforms. Where we were dealing with different platforms. For example, I'll tell you, Amazon, the sales of Amazon from 2020 till 2022 is more than 3 times than before. For example, there are some local platforms like Abjad, for example, a Jordanian company run by Iman Hallouz, one of the great entrepreneurs in the Arab, is selling much more better. So I think this was one of the ways we were selling. For other ways, we were focusing on, for example, forming some fairs in some clubs, for example, an open space, open area for selling our products and even selling others' products. I think this helped us a lot. Things are not, as I told you, things are not perfect, but at the same time, we're still in the market, we're still there, we're still working. And I think this is the only exit door for any publisher to keep on going. He have no other way in the Arabic market to keep, and even in the world, unless he have to change the way of presenting his materials, have to change the way of selling his products or books.
Well, it's thanks to the entrepreneurial spirit that we hear in you, Ahmed, and that we hear in Renad, looking at these new ways to do things, leveraging the online world to your advantage, that in fact you are still here, as you say, and that you're growing and you will be even stronger as we keep moving beyond the pandemic. Your point about book fairs is so important. I want to make an interesting point here, that the Abu Dhabi International Book Fair and the Sheikh Zayed Book Award both are produced by the Abu Dhabi Arabic Language Center, which is interesting. Dr. Ali bin Tamim and his team really understand this problem. They know the book fairs have to get up, and that's why last year Abu Dhabi was one of the first to get back up on its feet and start going. Sharjah was very quick to this too. They kept going right through the pandemic, very difficult to do. But this was important. People needed these book fairs. A great deal of funding work is being done now to help with this, and that's important. You're right.
Look, I have to tell you something. Whether Sharjah or whether Abu Dhabi or even UAE as a whole support better governments. To be frankly speaking.
Say again for us. We had a little trouble with your audio. Say what you just said, Ahmed. Say it again to us.
Yeah. Sharjah or Abu Dhabi, they are doing a great job, better than other governments. How did they did this? For example, in the pandemic, for the book fairs, they canceled booths. For example, they gave support for purchasing books, working on their professional programs, and that's something much more better. Yeah, I didn't plan, for example, for you, one of the reasons to sell our copyrights beside Abu Dhabi, for example, was Sharjah professional program. The support they give, even if it's not a big support for each book, it helps because he brings any publisher or any agent from the foreign world to Sharjah. This means that these are keen for buying rights from the Arabic publishers. So there is great projects in Sharjah and Abu Dhabi in this sector, not only purchasing and not only giving funds for routers or whatever, but also for the professional program they make for Arabic publishers.
It's great to hear. It's wonderful to hear a vote of support like that from somebody who is as well versed in all of this as you are, Ahmed. So thank you for that comment and for all of your comments. And Renad, thank you for everything you've given us. We could go on for another hour. This is such a great conversation. I really appreciate the inputs that both of you have brought us. We'll have to do it again, and we'll pick up where we stopped and keep talking. And I will see you at the International Book Fair in Abu Dhabi very shortly. I'm looking forward to that. As we conclude here then, I want to say again, thank you to our guests, Renad Qubbaj of the Tamer Institute in Palestine, and Ahmed Rashad, who is with Dar al-Masriah al-Lubnaniah in Egypt. Both of you have been terrific. I love everything that you've given us. It's very helpful in understanding the importance of awards like the Sheikh Zayed Book Award, which has brought us this program today. And we want to thank Sheikh Zayed and the team there for making this possible. I am Porter Anderson, the editor-in-chief of Publishing Perspectives magazine, and we hope you'll be back with us on our next program. Thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.